Club members, fans, friends, and family. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 3 of the Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks. Hey, we're sorry it's been intermittent. We're busy. We're thriving. We're artists. So, if you were here for the strict time schedule, you're in the wrong building. Joining us today, we have the beautiful Randa Meyer-Henry. Randa, how are you?
Doing fine. Glad to be here.
Oh, wunderbar. The beautiful KT Barnes. How are you today, KT?
Glad to see some beautiful faces.
Oh, and last but certainly least, the beautiful Paul Regano.
Happy to be here.
For how long, though?
Time will tell.
If you are joining us for the first time at Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks, first we give you a little hot take and then we get into the topic of our episode. Today we are going to talk to you guys about the first thing we learned. It's all about what our expectations were going into the business, or like just even going into our education program, whatever it was, what our expectations were versus what the reality was. We're only going to talk about one thing. We're going to keep it kind of short, cross our fingers. Good luck. Today, we are starting with the hot take. Oh, you know what I should also say? Akira is probably going to hop in here and join us as well. She was a little busy, but she'll pop in at the most opportune moment. I am certain of it. Can't wait. So first, our hot take. So this is pretty topical. As you guys know, theaters have been shut down for the duration of COVID, and we're starting to see some reopenings. And there are a lot of policies having to do with what the audience is doing. As usual, everybody's thinking through the front door of the theater. What's the audience going to do? What's the ticket taker going to do? How are those ushers going to function, right? Everybody's thinking through that. Nobody's thinking about that back door. No one's thinking about what's coming through the stage door. What are those policies going to be? So everybody who's doing shows on stage is dealing with things in different ways. Like I've heard of people doing extensive testing, temperature checks, like medical checks. I've heard of shows, I think it was in Tokyo. There was a show where they were literally, I think it was like Phantom of the Opera. They were triple quick checking people for COVID. And you had to stay isolated until all 3 of your tests came back negative. And then you could go into the theater and nobody was masked on stage, which is crazy, right? So I've heard of people doing that. I might be wrong about where it was, but I'll look it up. I'll put the article in the description. But I've also heard about people wearing face shields and masking for shows. And not only does this create issues because we're all projecting to the back row, and if you put a face shield on, you're projecting to the back of the head. Like there's all of these challenges. So what we're going to talk about is as we reopen, how do we feel about like wearing masks on stage? What's that going to be like? And if we think we should do it, like, should we reopen in mask? Should we stay closed? What's going to happen? What do we think? I'm going to start off with Randa. Randa actually recently did a show where she worked tech. She's going to tell us a little bit about that, but they wore masks in the show. What was that like, Randa?
Yeah, I mean, it was super weird, but I think like something that you just kind of have to get used to. So I ran sound for a production of Pasek and Paul's James and the Giant Peach. And so whenever a cast member was on stage alone and at least 6 feet away from the audience, they could take down their masks and they could sing that way. So like, obviously, I mean, they just were trying to protect each other and the audience. It obviously causes some other things that you have to put into play, like are masks part of costumes, which for this they were. The costumer made masks that matched each of the costumes for the performers. And for me, I really had to deal with mics and how to make sure that they could still be heard even if they were in masks. So I mean, as far as sound goes, they were muffled. There's really nothing you can do about that. Even when you're in like a grocery store or whatever, and you're talking to the cashier, sometimes that's just how it is. So I don't know. I think that like, I'm so happy that theaters are coming back. And if this is how they're coming back, that's sweet. But for me, like it was just distracting. And because it was children's theater, I think that we lost a lot of diction and things because of the masks. So I don't really know what my opinion is on it, if I'm being honest.
Well, it's hard to keep kids engaged in general. Like if you sit everybody in a room and you turn the lights off, like particularly with children who have a shorter attention span in theory, I don't know, with the internet and all of it, like that our attention spans are getting shorter and shorter. But yeah, that would be hard because we use this to communicate. Like this is one of our communication methods. So covering that much of it, that's rough. What do you think, Katie?
I think I see a couple different sides to it. For me personally, if I were performing right now, I would be insistent on wearing a mask. Just as a personal safety precaution and what I feel is safest for my companions on stage, I would be choosing that for myself. And I think it's important that theaters make that okay for everyone and provide those things for their people. But what I will say is that if you're a person who's anti having performers masked, there's a surefire way to help make sure that we don't have to keep doing that. And that way is to go get yourself vaccinated, my friends, and to make sure you're following all the precautions as the people in the audience. I will also say that I have some friends who work at a theater, I think in Indiana, where they house the actors all together. So the actors are staying together, they're quarantined together as a company. So having them on stage without their masks is not a big deal because they're all together all the time. So they're gonna get each other's germs. It's like our families, right? They're living with each other. So in that case, they don't typically choose to wear masks in that group. And I know that because I have people in the group that I know, but the audience may not know that. But if you want to keep seeing those kinds of things, there's surefire ways that you can make sure that they start happening more.
That is so true. That is so true. What is the herd immunity number? Like 70? It's like 80 to 90%. Is that something? We don't know. Science. We need some science friends, guys. We need theater friends. I feel like too, like I can almost get through any challenge, you know. I like the idea of making it into like part of the costume and like making it work or whatever. But I also feel like communication is key here. So if you're not masking and you have everybody quarantined, I feel like that's worth a program note. You know, like communicate to your audience or even a pre-show announcement. Like, ladies and gentlemen, please be aware, this is the circumstance. I don't know, because I think it's important. I don't know. That's good. Paul, what do you think? What's your?
Yeah, no, I think a note in the playbill is a great idea. Explaining, we're not being cavalier. We're not taking this lightly. We understand the threat, and we are doing this, that, and the other, X, Y, and also Z to work around it. Personally, I think that there is not. I'm going to be the hot part of the take today. I think that there is not a really. I don't think it's impossible. Nothing's impossible, especially in theater. But I think that there is a lot to overcome if the plan is to mask or face shield your actors, least of which being the suspension of disbelief. I saw it done. I did not see the production, but I knew someone in the Barrington stage did a and this was like last year, really in the heat of it, in the summer. They did Godspell. It was all outdoors. It was in a tent, but it was open air. It was outdoors. The entire cast and was wearing face shields. The audience was socially distanced and masked. I did not hear of any outbreaks as a direct result of that we knew that was confirmed. So again, nothing is impossible, especially in theater. I say the best way, I'm going to side with Katie on the idea of, I think the whole company should be vaccinated. I think we've had over 200,000 vaccinations by now. We're getting to a place where it is more accessible. So I think if it means waiting a little longer before, until it becomes a little more ubiquitous to have been vaccinated, I am personally, I don't love it, but if that's the safe way to do it, that is my feeling. And then it's so funny, Amber, that you said everyone's thinking about the front door and how to get the audience in. I'm all about the back door and thinking about wing space like this. So I think the audience should be held to a standard of masking and distancing and all of that. But in terms of the company and anyone on stage or behind the scenes, it makes the most sense to me to just get everyone a vaccination passport and do that.
Yeah, I agree. Katie, yes.
I also just wanted to throw out, this is not the first time theater like actors have had to wear masks on stage, guys. Look at pictures from the 1920s when the pandemic hit, and you will find people in theater who were wearing masks performing on stage. It's not the first time this has happened to our group. Like, look up at the history. So it's not something new.
And that was before amplification too.
Yeah. Also, if you're part of Goshen Theater Drama Club summer program, you know that theater started out in what, Katie? In masks.
Hey.
Yeah, both in Asia and Africa, well, both in Asia and Africa and Greece, which are the synthesis of our storytelling culture and theater. Those three cultures, those three places, all three of them use masks to tell stories. So maybe we need to get hyper creative with this stuff and like take it to the top. Yeah. I think this is such a hard discussion to have. You know, I did a staged reading back in August, outdoors at the Wellfield Botanic Garden in a tent, face shielded with scripts. I felt very like I was in my own room. It was a fundraiser for Hello Gorgeous, which is a nonprofit that goes around to like cancer centers and to people's homes. It's like a mobile salon, and it was a big fundraiser for them. And it's great. They do great work. I felt like it was like a weird time, like it wasn't the right time, even with face shields and like everything being so closed in and being on a stage, open air at a botanical garden. It still felt weird, and I wanted to get out of there as fast as possible. But the weirdest part about it and the challenges, like everybody was like, yes, we'll do it like this. It's a great idea. Nobody thought about how are people going to be heard when you're wearing a piece of plastic over your face, one. And there were no personal microphones because we were in an outdoor venue, and there was a generator for the lights. So the tech elements of the show, when we got to dress rehearsal, were so bad. The mics had to be bumped so much that if someone sitting in the like audience section of the lawn at their little round table, because it was sold by tables, socially distanced, like all the tables were really far from each other, but people sat at their table. And that was totally a smart way to do it. But if they were sitting in one of the front tables whispering, there were fewer challenges with those whispers getting to the floor mics than the performers. It was ridiculous. So it was successful largely. I mean, I didn't see the show, so I don't know, but it felt okay by the time we got down to it. But there was discussion of, should we take the masks off? Should we use face masks instead of shields? What makes the best sound? And I was like, these are all things that like, it didn't seem worth the challenge to me, even though it was a great show for a great cause. It was good to be doing theater for people, all of that. Like, it was all very on mission for Amber. It didn't feel like the right time. I feel like we are getting closer to the right time. And if, as we like dip our toes in the water of theater, we get to like do a couple things with face shields, and we're all getting our vaccinations and all of that, then it's good that we're moving closer. And there has to be an interim period where things are weird. Got to be weirder than usual. Yeah. That's great. You know, I miss you guys. I love this. So today's topic, we're going to be talking about the first thing that we learned. I know that I'm not alone in this, and I'm sure we're not alone in this. Everybody has expectations. And when you dream about being something or doing something with your life, particularly when you're a child or when you haven't been out into something professionally, you have a preconceived notion of what it's going to be like. And some of those things are totally accurate. And then some of those things are off the mark. Like, rehearsing for a musical is not like White Christmas, for example. When you decide to do a show in a barn, it doesn't just all come together for the general on Christmas Day and it snows. So if those are your expectations, then you got a lot to learn. We're all going to talk about one thing that we learned that's different than what we expected things to be. It could be in the positive or the negative. You know, who knows? Who knows? I think, oh my goodness. I think we're going to start with Katie. Katie, let's talk about the first thing you learned.
This is a hard thing to narrow down for me.
Yes.
But I'm gonna tweak it just a little bit because my mind just works in a different way. And that is, it's not necessarily the first thing I learned, but probably like one of the biggest shocks to the system is learning that success in this business looks different on everybody. And that it's not just, if you want to do film, you go to LA, and you want to do theater, you go to New York. That's a lie. It's a lie, my friends. Those are not the only places that do art. Art can be anywhere. You can make art wherever you are. And I think that's one of the biggest things that when you go into this field, you have to learn for yourself, is that I'm probably never going to be a Broadway star. Would I love to be? Absolutely. Call me. I'm ready. Okay. But it's probably not going to happen. It's just not my niche. I'm not going to fit that mold, most likely, anytime in my lifetime. Hopefully we make it better for those who come after me. But I also found that that's not where I'm happiest. Like, I love being more regional because that's where a lot of my family base is and where people tend to congregate from my friend group because their family base is there. So I see them when they pass through. But it's also just learning that I'm also not just a performer and that I can do other things. And you don't necessarily get the time and space in those bigger cities to figure that out for yourself because you're too busy grinding to figure it out.
In Annie, during NYC, hear me out. Star to be arrives, $3, 2 bags, 1 me. And that she's gonna be on Broadway. So explain that.
Well, it's just like in Thoroughly Modern Millie when she gets there with her ticket and she's gonna take it by storm. Yeah. It's the falsehood that's pushed on every dreamer who wants to go and be a performer, that you have to sell all of your worldly possessions and put everything you have and just go to this coastal place and then you'll be discovered. And when that doesn't happen for people, they get scared, they don't know how to handle it. So, know that that's not the end all be all, my friends. Like, go live your life. If you want to go to New York and you want to try your hand at it and you want to grind, do it. Like, that's the only way it's going to happen for you is if you commit to doing it. But if you get there and you figure out after some time of doing it and throwing your head against the wall so many times that is not your version of success any longer, do not be afraid to relocate, to figure out what your version is. I think that's the biggest lesson I could ever learn for myself and try to teach my students.
It's almost like you're saying that talented people are born everywhere.
And that it's okay to share that talent everywhere.
Yeah. One of my favorite things to say to actors back when I was in charge of actors was, hey, this audience isn't less or more valuable than an audience in New York City. Like, because here's what Broadway is. It's tourism. Do you think that like every Friday night, someone who lives up in Flushing is getting on the train and going down to see Phantom of the Opera? No, it's tourism. So the same people that are seeing your local production at your non-equity for-profit regional theater, those people buying those tickets are the same people that are going to buy tickets when they go to New York. So if the audience is comprised of the same people, why is there a perception that there's more value in one place than in the other? Like, we have the ability to change lives, change perspectives, create beauty everywhere. It's not just in one place. Oh, snaps to Katie. Feedback on Katie's stuff. What do you guys think? Paul?
Well, I would just like to offer a fun tidbit that the two ends of the straight off the bus in New York City examples, Star to Be and Millie, were both played by Sutton Foster. And I think that another role that she's played is also kind of relevant. And kids, don't go rent this movie, even though it's got a lot of great music in it. Until You're Older, but Sweet Charity, which she played in a concert version. A big part of what she thinks she wants is putting the test of that success in other people or other things. There's got to be something better than this. I have to get beyond this. And ultimately, what Charity learns is that to find her happiness, she has to look inward. At least that's part of what she learns. And I think that, like Katie, a lot of what you were describing is remembering that, at least for most people, I think, one of the biggest measurements of success is how much happiness what you're doing brings you. So that's my takeaway. That's
very smart. It's also very Sutton Foster centric, which we all appreciate. It's a little insight into the mind of Paul.
I'll let her know next time I see her that she was instrumental.
Yeah, you know that's actually like a real thing, though. That you'll let her know the next time you see her. Like, that's for real, though. Right?
In the fall, yes. We won't be hanging out, but yeah.
She'll be a guest here on Table Talk.
I'll see what I can do. Don't think I can get Hugh.
She and I have a lot in common, actually. We're both 5'9". So, Randa.
Yes, I'm here.
What do you think on what Katie said?
I think that I feel like we've talked about this, that there just like is theater everywhere. So I think that I was really lucky in that my early 20s, I got to go to EPAs in LA and in Chicago and in New York. And every single experience was wildly different. And I got seen more in certain cities than in others, and I got seen more for certain calls than others. So it really, like, I don't know. I think you just got to kind of just find your community, find your people, because I think that more than anything, when you're trying to find a place to like set up camp, is to just have a support system around you, because it's hard to just like be rejected every day and then go to your waitressing job at night or whatever it is that you're doing. So I'd say, like, in general, I think I've learned that having people around me that are supportive is like really, really important. More important than I even thought it would be in my undergrad and even before that.
Yeah, you're allowed to have your own personal priorities, guys. Like, they'll tell you, hey, your priority is this, but like your college program will tell you this is what your list of priorities needs to be. And then like everybody will try to tell you that this is how things need to be. It's not true. Mm-hmm. You're allowed to be an individual. It's encouraged. Yes, Paul?
Every time someone gives you advice about your theater career or anything else, they're just giving themselves advice. They're just telling you what they want to hear, or maybe what they thought they had to hear when they were your age. But either way, I have always found that advice is about 90% projection. So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, when Peter insults Paul, it says more about Peter than Paul.
It's true.
Wise. It's very
what
wise.
What do you know named Peter, Paul?
The second third of our singing trio.
Oh, and he's being rude to you?
You know, he didn't think we should do Puff the Magic Dragon, but you know what? It's made us a ton of money, so.
Oh, you're ridiculous. So on that note, Paul, you're leaving?
No.
What's your first thing you learned?
Actually, mine actually ties into what Randa just said. And this seems like a silly thing, but I learned that to make theater, one of the requirements is other people. Even if you are doing a one-person show. So theater is a collaborative art, is what I learned. And you'd think that I would know that, but I grew up, especially as someone who, the more I got into writing, when I was younger, I would look at something like a Sweeney Todd and think, my God, Sondheim is a genius. And this thing that I'm looking at on stage, every element of that sprung forth from his mind, fully formed, or at least in an early form. And then everything that's on stage is on the page and was his intention. No, not remotely. The first time that glass like started, the first crack in that glass was reading a book of interviews that he did with Mark Horowitz, I believe, called Sondheim on Music, Minor Details and Major Decisions. And the interviewer said, I've always loved the Act 1 finale of Sunday, and if you haven't seen it, it's on YouTube. They just celebrated their 37th anniversary. Go watch Sunday, the Act 1 finale. When they sing the line, Sunday in the Park with George, the Act 1 finale is called Sunday, and they are singing about the park, and they sing a line, towards the vertical of trees, and on the word trees, the sopranos hold this line, and then every other voice group walks down trees, and they outline this unbelievably beautifully tension-y chord. And the interviewer said, Steve, tell me about that. And Steve said, well, I hate to take away your Christmas, but I'm pretty sure that Paul Gemignani came up with that. Paul Gemignani was one of Sondheim's most frequent music directors. And most of the things that you probably love about Sondheim's work, or many things, would come from him. He's a musical genius. And then I started to write, and then I started to work with people. And I worked on new musicals that other people had written, and I saw someone say, what if X happened? Well, isn't this blah, blah, blah? And the writer would go, oh, okay, yeah, let's try that. And it takes an incredible amount of trust and vulnerability to say to someone, this is a thing that I've created. You have an idea about it. It all exists inside my head, but you are bringing new things, and I'm open to that. And ever since the first time I saw that, a musical being made by a group of people, which is how they are made, I have forced myself to admit that I am not perfect and don't have the entire show formed in my head before it starts. And Amber's like, that's news to me. And my art has been so much better for it. So listen to other people, find people you trust, allow yourself to be vulnerable, and collaborate, because the best theater comes from collaboration.
I think it's really funny. You guys tell me if I'm crazy or if you guys started out this way too, but for me, theater kind of started as something I did alone in my room with my record player, because I'm old as the hills, but it was something that I did by myself. And then eventually CDs, I would put on a cast recording, I would memorize every word of it, I would read the liner notes, and then it would get to a point where I would perform it, not just sing along while I'm doing other things, perform it in my room. I feel like for me, it was such a solitary art. The step between doing something like that alone by yourself in your room and actually auditioning for a show is a huge chasm. And it's huge. But I think we all kind of start out, or my experience is that I started out in the world of my imagination before I ever ventured out into the greater world. And it's interesting that you're saying that it's that way career-wise too, because that's very true. Randa, thoughts?
Yeah, I think that getting other people's opinions is crazy important. When I was an undergrad, I took piano lessons, and before every piano jury, all of our piano professors would be like, okay, you should play this for a friend before you go in and play it for your professors. And me, dumb little freshman, didn't do that. And I will always come to my friends for just a practice performance before the real thing. Highly recommend that. Always.
That's very smart. Katie.
Yeah, your whole idea that you put forward, Paul, it takes me back to every regional theater I've ever worked at, because in most of those regional theaters, you are not only the performer, you are the tech support. So you are the stagehands, you're moving the pieces, you're the one shuffling things backstage for them to take it on stage for the next scene and whatnot, or you're taking it on yourself. So you are tech. And without every single person pulling their weight, whether you have a tech team designated as just tech or not, without every single person pulling their weight, the show doesn't work. The show you learn, the show you put forward will fall apart if all the moving pieces are not hitting their marks when they are supposed to, because it's a domino effect. One person misses one thing, it throws the actor on stage off, and it just keeps trickling down. So we are a team always from the very get-go. And so, Paul, yeah, I support everything you said, my friend.
Yeah, there's a difference between like living in the world of your imagination and doing something in a solitary way, which creation and songwriting and playwriting often begin, or every time they begin in the world of the imagination. There's a big difference between that and actually doing it. And like the teamwork makes the dream work thing. We saw right before the shutdown, we saw the national tour of Beautiful. It's great. But they have a track system for the set where there's these flats that come in and out on these tracks. Normally it works great. We saw it on opening night and there was something wrong with the calibration, and you could kind of tell something was wrong with the calibration, but one of the things got stuck. Well, in the middle of the show, like there's a scene happening, which would normally be like a demi-grand scene, like in the history of Rodgers and Hammerstein, sort of like downstage while something's happening. They pulled the scene downstage for this conversation and people came out and tried to fix the thing. And it became evident that the thing was never going to move until the act break. So everybody modified their blocking. The only time I noticed that something was weird was on the entrance when the guy comes out for "You never close your eyes anymore when I kiss your lips," right? He comes out and it's clear there is a special. He's supposed to stand in a particular place and there's a special, and he's supposed to walk directly down stage because the cues go out and come up in a line all the way down stage. And this thing is like this. So he's like, "You never close your eyes anymore." And like slightly leans out and is still in the cue. And then as he like approaches the thing, he keeps like leaning out, and then he gets right onto it and does this like sidestep business to get in front of it. "You lost that love and feeling." It was spot on perfect. I was like, yes, yes. But like that actor chose to make that thing work. Like living in the world of his imagination, that would have never happened. Everybody takes these risks. We all do these things together to create these great and beautiful moments. And from the inception of a show all the way through to like strike, there is always a team. Even if you're doing a one-man show, even if you're doing something like completely by yourself. Yes, I love that. I love that, Paul. I think we all live in the world of our imaginations when we start.
Yeah.
It's so great.
And it's a scary thing to get away from.
Yeah. Oh, all right, Randa.
Yes. Okay. I think I'm going to go a little later in my life in terms of the first thing I learned. I will say that like learning continues outside of an educational institution. And because the world continues to change around us, everything that you learn about theater and musical theater and auditioning, blah, 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 in an educational setting will need to be adapted in the real world. Like I have learned more about auditioning in doing auditioning than I ever did taking my one semester audition class or whatever, because I mean, like, not to knock on my professors, because I've learned so much for them, but they've been out of the industry for so long that they just don't know. They don't know that like the new norm is to wear jeans and Keds and not your jewel tone dress. And so like I would say just like continue searching for knowledge, because you could just like kind of plateau, or you could just continue to skyrocket. And I think that a lot of people just decide to stop taking voice lessons, stop learning. And that's when like things don't really happen for them, you know? You just got to keep searching for that next thing that's going to give you a leg up over your peers if you want to make the cut.
I think that's so smart. Like, yeah, like we've kind of talked about this before. That's why it's really important to have like a diversity in your education, and not just like the kinds of diversity that we think about, but like diversity of experience. Mm-hmm. So yeah, I had, there was somebody, I don't remember who this was. It was last year or the year before, who was having a hard time with one of their professors. And I said, well, how old do you think this professor is? Like ballpark it. Are they my age? Are they a little bit older, a little bit younger? And they said, probably around your age. And I was like, all right, I'm going to be nice. And I'm going to give them 45. I'm going to say they're 45 years old, right? So if they have a master's degree, which I presume they do, and they went to a 4-year university, right? They graduated college probably at 22, and then probably had a number of years that they were in the business back in the day, and then probably got their master's degree, which takes 2 to 3 years depending on your thesis, right? Are they tenured? Yeah, okay, so achieving tenure takes about a decade. So what you're telling me is that you're taking professional advice from someone who at 22 went to New York, did some stuff, thought, I'm gonna go get my master's. Probably maybe they were 28 when they got their master's. So then they're 30 when they get out. It takes them a little bit of time. They're an adjunct for a while. And then by 35, they've got the job that they have now. And now they've been doing teaching for 15 years. You're telling me that the person that gave up and went back and got their master's and decided to change tracks to do education because they felt like they had a greater gift in education, they're giving you a professional acting advice. Their advice is great. And like being an educator is awesome, but you're not trying to be an educator. You're trying to be a performer. Don't take professional advice from someone who hasn't done the profession that you do or the profession that you want. Like, and take professional advice from anybody that will give it to you, but like sift it. You're looking for gold nuggets. Get rid of the rocks, get rid of the dirt. Sifty, gold nuggets. Yeah, it's one of those things. You think because someone's in authority, and I'm guilty of this as much as anyone else, you think, oh, this person in authority is saying this thing, I should take it to heart because they know more than me, because they're a person in authority. And I shouldn't be giving our students this like Viva la Revolucion sort of sensibility right before drama club, because we don't want y'all to mutiny on us during drama club. Like, be nice, but it's a fact. It's a fact. So take it with a grain of salt. If it doesn't feel intuitive to you, seek help elsewhere. But yeah, Randa, that's an amazing point. Katie, what do you think?
Yeah, the whole idea of continual learning it's important for anything, even if it's not theater, guys. Like, you have to continue to learn about things, or you'll stagnate. You'll stop growing, and that's sad. I don't want to see anyone stop growing. So yeah, definitely keep learning. And also, I think, Amber, to your point about educators, I think that's why I always go back to, I'm more of a facilitator than anything else. I can give you what I know and what I'm learning, but I can also put you in touch with people who are also doing the work, who also have experience in all these different fields. And so like, for those who are getting ready to go to college, I highly encourage you, do your research on your program. Look, see how many workshops they're bringing into your educational program from outside sources. All right, make sure they're giving you those opportunities. That's part of what their educational program should be, is getting you outside workshops from people who are in the industry, who know the industry, who are working in it right now. So that's number one. Make sure they're giving you workshops. Make sure they're doing, I should say this, when they're doing showcases, like, yes, it's important to do showcases, but are they throwing you to the wolves of the casting agencies, or are they giving you this opportunity to create a bridge with these casting agencies? So like when I did my New York showcase, we not only did a cabaret performance, but our professors made it so that one of the huge casting agencies, we set up individual auditions with them as a workshop style situation. So we went in, we auditioned for them as if we were auditioning for them for Broadway. And then afterwards, they gave us feedback. And then they gave the whole group feedback after that. So you have to really do your work. You do your work when you're looking into your programs. What are they offering you? Yes, Amber, before you lose your thought, go for it, girl. No.
Hello.
Hello, beautiful.
How's it going? I'm sorry.
Don't be sorry. We're so glad to see your face.
We're on live with Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks.
Tell everybody where you're coming from today, Akira.
What did you say?
Tell
Sorry.
everyone where you're coming in from today. Where are you?
I'm in New York. Yay!
She's back, folks, stateside.
Yes.
That's awesome.
So anyway, yes, keep learning, do your work, find out what your programs that you are interested in are offering you. And as for like your educational programs, like for Goshen Theater Drama Club, like hold us to it. Make sure that we are doing the work to bring you those opportunities as much as possible. Obviously, we're still in the very young ages of our program and trying to get it up and running full time and whatnot. But as we continue, make sure we are bringing you diversified information and bringing in outside sources for you because you deserve it. You deserve those opportunities. And if we can make it happen, like we will.
Yep.
There's always money issues to be discovered along the way, but you know, we'll figure it out. Amber's a pro at getting those grants, y'all.
Money. Yeah, no, tell me what you want. I'll write a grant. Don't worry about it. That's so smart. I think too, there's something else here in this continual learning way of thinking. Like, I've never regretted as an actor learning new things about other stuff. Ever. Like, as a casting director, I will say, when people would come in who were theater zombies, you know, the people wearing the Broadway custom shoes with their Mary Poppins on tour national jacket and their Hamilton baseball cap with their binder and their New York City 42nd Street water bottle. They come in talking to their friend like, no, I think Laura Benanti was, oh, hello. And then they hand me their headshot. I'm like, do you have any interests outside of the Broadway? And like, there's nothing wrong with being obsessed with Broadway. I think all of us are, but there is something to be said for reading a book that's not a Broadway book. Like, where are these stories coming from? How often, as an actor, do you play someone obsessed with Broadway?
Theater is not about theater.
Yes, and sometimes it is, and usually heavily fictionalized.
Right.
So even theater about theater isn't about theater. That's the title of the episode right there. But yeah, don't be scared to learn new stuff in other ways. Like, take a kickboxing class, learn to golf, learn fencing. There are relevant skills that could actually disproportionately affect your career in the positive if you learn new things. And I think that's my transition. That's going to segue me into what my first thing I learned was. I have two. One of them was, it's all the same. Auditioning is all the same. As long as you've done every kind, the cold read kind of audition and the have a prepared piece audition, that always feels the same. I've literally guys, done civic theater, community theater, school auditions and they feel exactly the same as auditions for Broadway, auditions for national tours. It feels the same. So there is nothing intrinsically more scary about Broadway auditions. There's nothing intrinsically more scary about like, oh, this is the dream. I'm doing it. You know what? When you're auditioning for anything, it's the dream. It's because you want to do it. You feel intensely about it. And sometimes it's about the paycheck, but you intensely want that paycheck. You know, like you want to survive and not live in a garage like Paul.
This is just the office space. This is where the magic happens. There is like a bed, a lavabo, and a fancy chair.
Oh, who's that at the window? Hunger. Any hoodle. So that was one. Don't be scared of it because it is the same. The only thing that's different is the quality of the intimidation tactics from the other people there. That's it. You know, like when Bobby Sue also wants to play Lori in Oklahoma, she's going to give you the same in your high school production. She's going to give you the same side eye and try to like give you that same bravado to psych you out. It's the same as when Bobby Sue wants to be Laurie on Broadway and you're both at that call. It's the same. It is the same. The quality of the mind games might be a little better for the Broadway, but I mean, high school students are notorious. So it's all the same. You're not going to run into anything that's like, oh, this is a huge wrench. So like the audition process now involves like doing a surgical procedure. No, it's all the same. It's all the same. That's number one. And number two is there's no such thing as type. Every director is going to see you differently. And when somebody has something in mind and you fit that bill, it's not up to you to decide who you are in relation to the narrative and how you're perceived from the outside. Your inner life may be Madame Morrible, but that director might see you as Elphaba, right? You have no you have no control over those things. And just because somebody sees you in a particular way doesn't mean that's who you are. And this is on the positive and the negative. I left Millikan, and in the first 6 months after Millikan, I did some work in like road management and stage management that went horribly wrong. I should tell you guys all about that at some point, but like I was not good at it, full stop. But after that, I played a 15-year-old princess as one of my first professional jobs. So I played this like twinkly in point shoes in like the opening number, princess, Principessa, right? I went from playing that to a 30-year-old baker's wife who is morally ambiguous and after her own stuff. So somebody a little more worldly wise, 30. The next role I played professionally was a 500-year-old male wizard. Yeah. So
you need to know what show that is.
It was Fellowship of the Ring, Ovation Theater Company in Cincinnati. It was actually the first group that had been granted the rights by the estate to write a dramatization of the books. And I was Gandalf.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Do you have pictures?
Yes, I will send you guys some photos. They redesigned it because I'm clearly a woman. And I was like 23, so I was clearly a 23-year-old woman. I started the show like this, like in a Henley and capri pants. My hair was French braided, but this was basically what was going on. Much younger, but this was it. And I started the show, one ring to rule them all. And I like literally first person on stage, had a ring in my hand, and walked down center stage because I was in the first scene. It's the one where I'm like, hey, there's this ring. Got to take it to, Mount Doom or whatever. So that whole first scene, I never left stage. So I come out like this. I walk down center stage and they put my costume on me. So I had like a crazy witch hat. I had a hood that I pulled up that tucked my hair in a little bit. And then I had the hat, and it was a wizard hat, obviously, craggy and gray. And then I had a wimple that was pinned in here like a nun that came like this, and it was gossamer and it had jagged edges. So my beard was a wimple, and I had the hat, and then I had all of these layers and my walking stick and all of it. But yeah.
Talk about there's no such thing as type.
Yep.
A role that has been played by Sir Ian McKellen and Amber Burgess.
This is the Venn diagram of my type overlap with Sir Ian McKellen. There it is, right there. It's not that big. But yeah, it's interesting. I never would have gone in and auditioned. And when they offered me the role, I was like, Galadriel? Are you saying Galadriel? I think no, it's got to be wrong. I'll just pick up the script. I'll pick up the script later. Thanks so much. No, Gandalf. So yeah, you can't predict, one. And two, I was so lucky to place a role so far outside my type that I couldn't internalize it. I had spent a lot of time internalizing, oh, you're the quirky best friend in this show. I was like, oh, so I'm not as pretty or as talented as this person who's playing the lead. I would internalize those things. That's what I would think. And that's not right. So, hey guys, that's not right. If you don't get the part you want, it doesn't mean that you're not whatever. Like I play an ugly stepsister and I think, oh, that means I have these qualities. They're seeing these things in me. So it was hard to not internalize those things. So lucky because I could not internalize 500-year-old man. There's nothing about me at 23 that's a 500-year-old man. I couldn't internalize it. I couldn't even be like, maybe I do come off a little like maybe I have like a powerful masculine energy. No.
Stop trying to justify the madness of casting directors.
Yeah, exactly. No, it was all about what they wanted out of the part and how they wanted it to go. And they did blind casting in a bunch of different ways.
I need that on a t-shirt, Katie. Stop trying to justify the madness of casting directors.
It's true. It's true. So yeah, it's not like, don't internalize it. It is all, first of all, it's all the same. Don't be scared. Secondly, whatever they cast you as has nothing to say about who you are on the inside as a person. It feels that way, but that's not it. Final thoughts. We're going to go to final thoughts. Akira, I'm sorry we are like close to time, but we'll start with Akira, final thoughts from you.
I'm just so glad to be here, and I'm just happy to be here.
Oh, we're so happy you're here. Oh my gosh. Oh, it's hearts. Little hearts. Boop, 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 boop. Paul, final thoughts?
There's so much to take away from this. I think the biggest thing is just to echo Randa's point, is the learning doesn't stop. So when we say that this is the first thing we learned after leaving school, that does not mean it's the last thing we learned. Robert De Niro has 2 Oscars and he still takes acting classes. Like, you're gonna keep learning until forever. That's my final thought.
Exactly. Miranda, anything to add?
I think like the post-education, or even like within education, you kind of just like make your own path, as we've talked about in almost all of our first things we've learned. So just keep an open mind and have a good time.
I love that. Katie, final thought.
No one has all the answers. You will never have all the answers. You will have answers. You will find them along the way, and we can give you some that have worked for us. But no one person in this entire universe has all the answers. You just have to do your best every step of the way.
That's right. What a great table talk. You guys are so smart and beautiful. So that brings us to the end of our episode today. Thank you all so much for joining us and sticking with us for this hour and 15 minutes of the most intelligent discourse on YouTube. Just going to put it up there. If you like what you see, like and subscribe below. And hey, guess what's coming up? Goshen Theater Drama Club, June 28th to July 17th. Registration's still open. Scholarships are available. Like, go over, register, get in there. It's non-cost prohibitive. It's 3 weeks long. We're going to have a great showcase. We have a ton of stuff planned. It's very ambitious. You guys are going to love it. Get over there and register. As always, thank you to Goshen Noon Kiwanis for your support. And also thank you to the United Way and the Community Foundation of Elkhart County for helping us out with a marketing grant this year. Thank you so much to all of them. And thank you, panelists. We will see you all next week. Bye-bye.